here we go. First things first is financial aid and the cost of attendance. This is a huge, huge piece of incomes and expenses for college students. And typically for those of you who have already graduated from high school and applied to college, you probably already got something either in your email or in the actual mail, or if you have a student portal at the college you applied to, you probably see something that's called the financial award letter or the financial aid offer, something along those lines. Usually those will tell you what is the total cost of attendance. And usually it's an estimated cost because it'll estimate transportation fees, book fees, housing fees, etc. So what I'm showing here is actually a breakdown example. So this doesn't mean these are actual numbers for any given person. This is more of an example. But this is an example for an OSU student taking 13 credits, and it's broken down per term. So as many of you might know, Oregon State University has 3 terms during the school year. So it's divided up in 3 for that total tuition cost for the year. So there you'll see on step 1, what will I owe? It says tuition and fees, about $3,680. And then it has room and board, and then that total bill. And then underneath that, it has financial aid. So anything that the student might be receiving in financial support through like Pell Grants or Oregon Opportunity Grants or any scholarships. On this one, in this particular example, there weren't any private or outside scholarships, but you will see that it includes a federal subsidized loan. And we're going to talk about those a little bit later. And then at the very bottom, you see the total fee due for that term, plus the financial aid that they're receiving, including the loan. So we understand that loan is going to eventually have to be paid back, but for the time being, that's an income for that student. And then the balance at the very bottom of what remains to be paid. And that's the big question mark, is how do we bridge that gap? This is just a quick example, but there's a lot more to it than just the financial aid and cost of attendance. So we're going to dive into that next. It's really important for students to understand what their financial situation looks like. And the first thing they should really do is try to project and track their expenses. And this includes, like we previously showed, tuition, any other fees, books and materials that they might have to spend some money on, supplies, technology, and just have a total educational expenses category, right, like you see in this example. And then we see on another part of it, transportation expenses. This could include your vehicle, car insurance, parking fees, whether or not you're using public transportation and how much that's going to cost, going home to visit family for vacation, Thanksgiving, holidays, whatever, maybe just the weekends, or whether you're commuting from home to school, how much is that going to cost per month or per term? So you'll notice when I said expenses, you could go either way. Some students prefer to keep their finances tracked per month, and some prefer to break it down per term. And that's a personal preference for the person. Then there's also the general living expenses. So your housing, whether it be in the dorms or apartments, or you're renting a house. What is that monthly fee going to be? Whether or not you're paying for utilities, your phone, food, laundry, and then any other personal expenses. And this, you have to include everything. So anything we haven't already mentioned, you might want to put in there because this can include going out to a movie. I know we're in COVID time, so it might not be actually going out, but whatever other expenses you might consider would go in that area. And then you want to total up all your projected expenses to know what it really is going to cost for you to cover those needs or wants. And we're going to talk about that in a bit, the difference between needs and wants. So when we go into this example, you'll notice that there's a column that says want or need. The reason why that's useful is because a student can really identify what is it that I really have to make sure I cover the expenses of, and what is it where that I want to have, but I might have some wiggle room of paying more or less. And that could be like holiday expenses or outings, Eating out, maybe cell phone, not really sure there, shopping, clothes and shoes. And then income. So it's also really helpful to track how much you expect to bring in during that month or term. And this includes grants, scholarships, even loans, and understanding that loans will eventually need to be paid back, but that for the time being is going to be considered an income. Any family support, any savings that you might have had dedicated specifically for your education or other expenses, and then income. It wasn't in this list that I found, but I wanted to include that in there because a student can also bring income of their own. And so that's why we put that in there. And then once you have that all listed, your total expenses and your total incomes, then you can really do the math and see whether or not you're going to be at a net positive or a net negative for the month, and whether or not you're going to have to work a little harder to piece things together for the month or the term, or if you're going to have a little left over to put in savings or towards your next term.